devices.
This is CNN, home of fake news.
CNN just published not only fake news, but very fake news.
Since you started the whole wrestling video thing, what are your thoughts about what has happened since then? I mean, CNN went after you and has threatened to expose the identity of a person they said was responsible for it. I'd like your thoughts.
Yeah, I think what CNN did was unfortunate for them. As you know now, they have some pretty serious problems. They have been fake news for a long time. They've been covering them in a very dishonest way.
You are fake news, sir.
What CNN and others, I mean not others, NBC is equally as bad. CNN has really taken it too seriously, and I think they've hurt themselves very badly, very, very badly.
Remember, it's just customary that the United States president, or really any head of state, when they go abroad, they are trying to put the best face on their own country. You know, they're trying to be boastful. That's not what we saw this morning. Jim Acosta, it is a high bar for me to ask you if you were surprised by something that the president of the United States said, but to take the petty political plays that are going on here at home and take it to the world stage, was that a surprise to the press corps? Right.
No, not at all, Chris and Poppy. Unfortunately, this was not a surprise at all that the president would take the first question from an American reporter during his foreign trip here, and that it would be from the friendly news media, friendly reporter who teed up a question about CNN. For the president to then go off on CNN as fake news, to me, just made this entire spectacle seem like a fake news conference.
You are fake news, sir.
Fake news conference. This was not an attempt by the president to seek out a question from somebody who was going to challenge him on the issues. David Martosco and I have known each other for a long time. He covered Donald Trump out on the campaign trail. I think he's a really good guy. And a couple of things we do want to point out, though, very quickly. One is the president once again said that Barack Obama did nothing from August to November about Russian meddling. That is simply fake news.
Process itself. And so in early September, when I saw President Putin in China, I felt that the most effective way to ensure that that didn't happen was to talk to him directly and tell him to cut it out, and there were going to be some serious consequences if he didn't.
About Russian meddling, that is simply fake news. President Obama talked to Vladimir Putin at a G20 summit in September about all of this. To say otherwise is simply fake news.
I think the Obama administration should have done a lot more when it became clear that not only was Russia intervening, but it was being directed at the highest levels of the Kremlin.
Simply fake news. Barack Obama went farther, by the way, in that meeting with Vladimir Putin.
I think the Obama administration should have done a lot more.
Barack Obama went farther, by the way, in that meeting with Vladimir Putin than President Trump is promising to do himself. He's not even promising to bring up election meddling in his bilateral with Vladimir Putin. So for the president to say, well, Barack Obama did nothing, he is at this point promising to do less than nothing on that front. The other thing that was fake news coming from President Trump is when he said, well, I keep hearing it's 17 intelligence agencies that say Russia meddled in the election. I think it's only 3 or 4. Where does that number come from?
As you know, the IC was a coordinated product from 3 agencies, CIA, NSA, and the FBI, not all 17 components of the intelligence community. Those 3. As you know, the IC was a coordinated product from 3 agencies, CIA, NSA, and the FBI, not all 17 components of the intelligence community. Those 3.
That was fake news coming from President Trump is when he said, well, I keep hearing it's 17 intelligence agencies that say Russia meddled in the election. I think it's only 3 or 4. Where does that number come from?
A coordinated product from 3 agencies.
Where does that number come from?
At the bottom of an article in the New York Times, well, this is part of what they had to say. They said the assessment was made by not 17, but 4 intelligence agencies: the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, and the National Security Agency. The assessment was not approved by all 17 organizations in the American intelligence community. You wonder how long they knew that, and how long sort of fake news, a fake fact.
That say Russia meddled in the election. I think it's only 3 or 4. Where does that number come from? Where is this 3 or 4 number come from? My suspicion, Chris and Poppy, is that if we go to the administration and ask them for this question, I'm not so sure we're going to get an answer. And if we do get an answer, it'll probably be off camera.
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
We don't see CNN or the New York Times rooting for any president, whether a Democrat or Republican.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No,
give
I'm
us
not
a
going to give you
question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state?
Sit down. Sit down.
Just because I want to ask you, sir.
I'm changing it from fake news now.
Doesn't that undermine?
Very fake news.
We don't see CNN or the New York Times rooting for any president.
And what about the business of, the other night at the Fox News debate, you seem to talk about, the size of your manhood, if I may put it that way, sir. You've also used. Let me just ask this because this is the problem with reporters.
Speaking with those journalists that speak on behalf of the public. So that's the challenge here. We're seeing a norm, not among Democrats or Republicans. This is bipartisan in the past, fair treatment of a variety of news organizations. And President Trump is challenging that.
And tell him to cut it out, and there were going to be some serious consequences if he didn't.